something different because we've played all bishop g5 Smyslav's variations. It's not the most critical line. So I'll play a Zamish. Okay, we got what's up? Um, Bishop g5 is the line that I like. I think black has a lot of good ways to play here, but probably the best is either c5 or knight to c6. h6 right away is pretty unusual. This move can basically cost black a tempo, having to play either h5 or king h7. He's bringing back some memories. I I think I had this game many years ago in a New York Open. There is an Indonesian international master named something like Siddhartho. I'm not sure. Siddhartho Situru, not Siddhartho Situru, Nathaniel. So I think he played h6 against me. It's a very rare setup with e5 and h6. So white's best is to keep the tension here, I suppose. Now knight c6, and I think this is turning into, well, like a position that's similar to the classical King's Indian, but favorable for white. We could play c5 and play on the queen's side, or 4 knights to g3, aka Gleck. Yeah, man, I mean, it's been years since I thought about that stuff. I never really play the 4 knights with white, but I've seen some funny games in that line. I knew this Syrian guy who like sacked a piece on move 4 or something with black. Um, Knight e7, what do you want to do? I mean, you want to play queen side, like c5. g4, we could just try to take over on both sides of the board. And I think that g4 is justified here. He could sack a piece if he wants. But, these type of piece sacrifices to do like bishop takes g4, like you see occasionally in the Dragon, and like very rarely in the King's Indian, you need very special circumstances for that to be sound. So I think that you got a nice attacking game for white. No, I don't think a Spassky would hesitate, to play like g4. Okay, c6 makes sense. It completely makes sense here. I wonder if, I don't think that this is a line for black. It's like b5 is a real idea for black here, though. I wonder if if I play queen d2, I mean, I just continue developing. If he plays h5, maybe white's best is to play h3 and kind of keep the tension on the king's side. If you lock it up with g5, it can be hard for white to make progress. If b5, I'm just going to take on c6, I guess. This is what I was planning. This is why I was pausing when I played queen d2. I mean, I'm thinking about what to do with b5. So he does the piece sack now. Yeah, dude. No, as I said earlier, it's interesting, but I don't think it's sound. He's hurt by the move h6 here. I mean, if you had bishop h6 available, it would give you a lot more counterplay. So this Magnus Carlsen-esque knight takes g4, we're not real impressed by that. I mean, the main thing is that white is able to castle queenside. So this looks pretty coffee house, and Now we have options. You know, normally you wouldn't do knight takes d5. Here I'm not going to do it for different reasons. I think if knight takes d5, knight takes d5, then he has queen h4 check. Actually, then queen h4 check, knight g3. Yeah, the other thing is I don't want to open up the c file because I want to castle queenside if I can, and you know he can prevent me from castling queenside. This isn't sound. This piece sacrifice for black. Not to say that there isn't maybe a little bit of practical danger. You could play h5, the idea of bishop h6. Now f5. I mean, it's a thematic kind of move, but it's, black's position doesn't feel like, it just doesn't feel like he's got enough here. I think I should castle. I should castle and play king b1 as fast as possible. I mean, I'm up a piece. My priority should be to consolidate. His bishop's bad. I don't want to open it up with, you know, pawn takes f5 if I don't have to. It just seems like he's, like most of our opponents in the 15-minute chess here, he's very practical. Just not even trying to play the best moves, just trying to make reasonable moves fast, which isn't really my philosophy. I try to play the best move every move, you know, and sometimes it's obviously impossible to do that. But I think if you have 15 minutes or 10 minutes on the clock, you should use that time. And it seems like most of my opponents, rather than using their time, the predominant philosophy seems to be to put me in, you know, try to force me into time pressure. H3, knight f6. I don't know. You know, is this, you know, if he plays b5 on the queen side, am I going to have problems with that? Is bishop h3 a move? I think bishop h3, h5. So, thinking about h3, maybe knight f6, knight g3. If he closes it up, then so be it with f4. I don't think that's a problem for me. Another question here, though, is I talk about not playing pawn takes f5 because I don't want to open up his bishop on g7. Aerial view of the chessboard. Yeah, I don't know. Mikey O, welcome to the stream. We had a lot of complaints about 3D board, so we're doing aerial view. That's one way to put it. The two-dimensional pieces. I'm conflicted on the whole thing, to be perfectly honest. But I'm getting used to the 2D pieces now, which were just chosen by the viewership in a landfall of election votes. Everybody wanted the 2D pieces. So if I take on f5, he has a tough choice between knight takes and, you know, knight g3, man. I kind of like this. If b5 a3, we probably buy a little time with that move. We have two bishops. They're kind of hidden. If he closes it up with f4, he's kind of shutting down a lot of his own counterplays. So he also secures the center for us. a3, if b5, if f4 92, with the idea of knight c1. Alright? Now if he plays something like rook c4, I don't like the alternative of bishop g2 a whole lot here. It puts my bishop on a kind of passive square. Well, I'll do it if I have to. A3, does it weaken the queen side significantly? Yeah, and he could play. He could also play A3, A5 anyway. So I'm thinking about queen D3. I need to buy some time. It interferes a little bit with my bishop on F1 though. That's okay. I'm thinking rook C4, knight C1 is interesting. And black has to prove something here. He's down a piece. What? How did we end up castling queenside? Welcome to the Samish King's Indian. We often castle queenside. This is a very aggressive move, queen A5. Connecting his rooks, but playing a little bit into the idea of knight C1, knight B3. I'm thinking about rook H2 as a defensive idea around here somewhere, but knight C1, B4, knight B3 looks okay to me. Knight C1, queen B4 doesn't really do anything, I guess. He's down a piece, so I don't think he can afford to sacrifice too much more material without, you know, fatally running short of stuff. Rook C4 maybe doesn't really help. Oh, maybe rook C4. However, knight B3, rook C4, knight B3, queen B4, perhaps. Wow. But the knight B3 then goes back to D2. That's a huge line for me. Rook C4, knight B3, queen B4, knight D2, kind of like trapping his rook there. That's probably shutting him down completely. So he closed down his play on the king side. I don't know, that's my side of the board actually, at the moment. Theoretically, my side of the board should be the queen side, so I have the lead pawn on D5 with the space advantage on the queen side. We're both kind of, yeah, it's funny the comment you made, clipping about castling queen side. Yeah, I mean, traditionally, white's plays on the queen side, black's plays on the king side in any kind of classical King's Indian. So I would normally open up the queen side with the space advantage. Black would do the same on the king side, just that in this particular variation with F3, for one thing, the white king side is a little weaker, a little more open. So this was the plan, to play knight d2. Almost trapping his queen here. There's just no way to do it, and I really need to get him off and out of my face in this position with knight d2. I mean, I'm lucky I have this move, to be honest. And I have a very, very interesting idea. He doesn't have a lot of squares. His queen can get trapped now with rook b6. I mean, bishop b6. This is probably like going to be what happens. You know, his queen gets trapped, and he has to sacrifice a rook and a, or try to get like a rook and a piece or more for the queen. So I just don't see how his queen's getting out if like rook c7, bishop b6, rook b7, a3. I mean, he's not even getting anything for the queen there. He can sack the exchange here. Rook takes c3, queen takes c3. But he's down too much material. You know, he's already sacked a piece, so he's going to be down a full rook. Excuse me, a full piece. Well, bishop b6 and a3. That's the problem.